All right, let's go. I have takes. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Holy shit balls. It's going to be that kind of episode. Hello, world. Welcome to another Breakout Finder podcast. I'm your host, Nate Liss. You can find me on Twitter at @AnOutrageDew. And as always, co-host on the show, Ryan Lopes. You can find him on Twitter at StillRyan5. And as you can see, if you're watching, if you're listening, you are unaware, we have the one, the only, Matt Kelley. You can find him on Twitter at fantasy_mansion. I just got to say, because we just had a little pre-show banter, Matt does not like what was laid before him on this show sheet. And,
you didn't improve.
There's a high likelihood that this is going to go off the rails like most episodes that he has featured on.
Namaste, my friend. Namaste, Ryan, as well. Good to be here, gentlemen. Good to be here. Only positive energy emanating from the Podfather at this time. Whatever you would like to discuss, I am here to explore in the universe of fantasy football.
Listen, man, before we get to fantasy football, Matt, the Podfather, I figured since we got the Brunch Father as well, are you still going by the Brunch Father as well, Matt? Is that still a lane that you find yourself in?
I know brunch very well. I'm very good at brunch.
Well. Okay.
I brunch often. You'll find me brunching most Sundays. Pretty much anything other than watching these godforsaken games. Yeah, fair enough. Now, Matt, you sit down at your brunch spot of choice, bounce around town. One Sunday you're here, next Sunday you're over there. Do you fancy yourself? I got to know, the people want to know. Are you a mimosa guy? Are you a bloody guy? Are you neither? Are you something totally out of left field? I'm a bloody guy. I like bloodies. I like bloodies. I like them spicy. I like a heavy peppered Bloody Mary. Absolutely. Now, you may not want to hear this. The hardcores may not want to hear this, but I go virgin.
Virgin.
I like it, the Bloody Virgin. And, the Bloody Virgin is the way I go. And that's, my taste buds prefer the Bloody Virgin on my lips.
Before we
Wow.
No, that's what I like.
Before we let Nate come in over the top
vodka.
rope.
I don't like the taste of vodka. I think vodka is gross. I don't understand vodka. Vodka's for people that don't like the taste of alcohol. So if I like alcohol, because I like liquor, I drink scotch and I drink whiskey and I drink tequila and I drink drinks where you actually taste the alcohol. I drink these things on the rocks. I drink high quality versions on the rocks, and way down the hierarchy is fucking vodka. And no, I'm not going to get inebriated. I'm not going to, put myself in a inebriated position early in the morning and ruin my day by drinking alcohol at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. That's not going to happen. I'm often active. I might go play golf. I might go play tennis. I might go play soccer with my daughter. I don't need a buzz on in the afternoon. It's counterproductive. I'm not going to start drinking until 4 o'clock on any given day. So just go with the Virgin. You can have the flavor of that Bloody Mary without the annoying, the dehydration, all the things that come with drinking early in the morning. It sets you up for a day that doesn't end well. So go ahead and avoid that with the Virgin Bloody.
Dude, do
now,
you like...
in terms of the menu, what I'm really into lately are a fluffy frittata. I've had a couple of the brunch spots that I frequent, and I've noticed that they've started to add the frittata. Some of them do it well, some of them don't do it as well. And so it's similar to a quiche. It's a little bit thinner, but they're able to get it fluffier. I have a spot where they also make a very fluffy quiche, and oh God, is it good! Just when it hits your lips, it just melts in your mouth. A fluffy quiche or frittata, a little ham. It's just so good. It makes my morning.
Dude, do you like when they come out and they give you the bloody and they give you fucking all the accoutrement? They got like a whole shrimp sticking out of it, a whole celery stalk, a goddamn whole handful of olives.
What have you done with Ryan Lopes?
Do you like all that stuff?
Find this vocabulary. This is not the Ryan
accoutrement
Lopes I knew earlier in 2019.
I'm hanging out with Nate too much.
Summer. I mean, you have developed into this sophisticate, Ryan, just in the
my
last
God.
couple months. You're ascending, my
Nate,
friend.
I was telling you about that. I've elevated.
Can we first off, they're not gonna like to hear this. The only thing worse than a Bloody Mary is a Bloody Mary without alcohol. First off, the Bloody Mary is one of the worst drinks that was ever created on this planet.
You haven't had a good one.
You can throw that
don't wanna
thing
have
in
the
a
Bloody
fucking
Mary where the
trash can.
mix comes from the jar or the bottle. You can get a fresh Bloody Mary that's homemade.
It doesn't make it
That
better,
is
Matt.
delicious. Who doesn't love tomato juice and spices? These things are delicious. What are you talking about?
I'm not a bloody guy either.
I also like mimosas.
Fucking love mimosas.
I enjoy a mimosa because a mimosa, at least that active ingredient, the alcohol, is a diluted champagne. So that you can get away with one of those. You won't feel it at all.
Yeah. Dude, so before I'm gonna circle the wagons. We're gonna talk about mimosas. I have a mimosa take, but Matt, before we venture on down the mimosa avenue,
You're doing
what
a
is
take before your mimosa take?
I have a take.
How long
I have a
is this
pre
segment gonna be?
This is it.
This
I
bit's
gotta
9
know.
minutes.
I gotta know. Yeah, we timed this out. What is the Terry McLaurin of brunch foods? On the flip side, what would one consider the Deion Kane of brunch foods?
Well, the Deion Kane of brunch. Here's the Deion Kane of brunch foods.
Here we go.
Is
I gotta tee it up for him.
Here we go.
right? It's the eggs Benedict with extra sauce. Okay.
Too much hollandaise, no bueno.
Too much hollandaise it ruins it, right? Like it has all the makings of a delicious entree.
I love how
But
we're
then
this together.
the hollandaise weights it down and it disguises all of the delicious goodness. It's too rich. It's too heavy. It's diluted. The deliciousness is diluted, but you're close. You're so close to having an elite wide receiver, an elite brunch item. If you just went light on the hollandaise, that would be like good Deion Kane.
Right.
Like if Deion Kane was drafted in the first or second round.
Beautiful analogy.
If he didn't have all these red flags, that would be a lightly hollandaised eggs Benedict. I just get the hollandaise on the side, so I don't let the expediter at the window of whatever restaurant I'm at ruin my eggs Benedict.
I can't even believe what. First off, I appreciate you actually making Deion Kane a legitimate meal, whether there's too much hollandaise sauce or not. I thought you were going to say 2 burnt toasts with some, IHOP, jam smeared over the top.
You have to understand that I don't go to IHOP. I don't go to places that burn the toast, Nate. The Podfather only goes to high-end breakfast and brunch spots where you can't miss. Everything on the menu is delicious.
I'm sorry. My whole life, I've just been Denny's Grand
You have to go out of your way to
I don't know
ruin
anything about
dousing the thing in hollandaise sauce.
I don't know. We just put gravy on everything over here. I don't know.
It's like
any
Deion
of
Kane. He went out of his way to ruin his career. He was on a trajectory to be drafted early, to be the featured receiver, a proper ex-receiver prototype at the college level. Had it all laid out for him. Had a history of wide receiver ones from his college go on to success at the NFL level. Everything was ready there for the taking, and he face planted.
It's not over yet, and I'm not gonna.
Plate of hollandaise sauce.
No takes on Deion Kane. It's further down here if we decide to address it.
Why did he ask about what's the brunch of Deion Kane?
So I wrote that down, not knowing
the brunch menu.
It's fucking crazy. This guy.
Listen, we're gonna pocket the mimosa talk. We spent way too much time on this. As Nate said, top of the show.
For brunch is you go to brunch to have some egg-related menu item. You don't go to brunch for pancakes. I mean, I get it, but you can make delicious pancakes at home. No matter how good the restaurant is, there's no way that they're going to make pancakes that are so good that they're going to absolutely dominate your homemade pancakes. You get egg dishes that you couldn't possibly make at home. That's what you do when you go out to brunch. You don't carb load on empty calories that you could have made at home.
This was honestly, I know someone out there is taking away. I mean, this is going to hit home for somebody. So Matt, this is thank you for all the brunch and say, man, listen, as Nate said top of the show, Matt pulled up the show sheet. He gasped. He didn't like what he saw. What Nate and I thought we were going to do is kind of go game by game, talk about some things.
Oh,
to Matt's point,
that, guys. No one's done game.
No, right. To Matt's point, there's some games that no one gives a shit about. There's some players that no one cares about. So what we're going to do is we're going to extract the pivotal headlines, the pivotal players. We're going to start with San Francisco. Matt, I got to know. Dante Pettis, wide receiver 3, Deebo Samuel, wide receiver 1. Are you on board? Would this be a headline? Would this be a topic that is worth your time? That is worth
Deebo Samuel is the number 1 wide receiver. It is Marquise Goodwin, number 2. Dante Pettis, number 3. Just looking at the snaps in the first 2 weeks. Actually, it's Marquise Goodwin leading the way in the snap share department, but Deebo Samuel is dominating the target share, so you give the nod to Samuel. Either way, Pettis isn't a factor. I have a nickname for Dante Pettis. Have you heard it?
Oh, God, yeah. No, I've heard it.
I'm not sure I have, man.
Drop it.
What do we got?
Hey, you know that Ryan Sneaky doesn't listen to the show, right? He's a big fan of those that don't listen to the show. He's one of our biggest fans. Dante Pettis TD.
So I've seen you tweet about
Pettis TD, and it's great because you might think if you weren't aware of the show that I was predicting a touchdown. But no, I'm saying that Dante Pettis is a sexually transmitted disease that you need to avoid at all costs in Dynasty.
It's crazy that Dante Pettis isn't targeted after he had the highest offensive snap count behind Marquise Goodwin last week. So
he threw a pass, though. He touched the ball.
He did. That's what I was saying. He's got more quarterback points than he does receiver points. So, yeah, man, I don't know what this whole doghouse thing is about. This is very weird. We may all dislike Dante Pettis for one reason or another, but the first 2 weeks of this season are very weird from a second-round pick in an offense that, by all standards, didn't really have a dominant receiver running the group. But what I did like, and I'm sure you like this too, Matt, we talk about dynamic score being a big indicator of future NFL talent. Deebo Samuel is getting 2 carries in that last game, so it's good to see that they're starting to use him in the backfield as well and putting the ball in his hands early and often.
Of course. Yeah, Deebo Samuel is an alpha in the NFL. There was a question about, would he immediately rise to the challenge or would it take some time? Could it taken a whole year to get acclimated? Who knows? But this entire draft class is exceeding expectations. There are so many explosive wide receivers that stepped up during training camp and preseason and seized major roles on offense. Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin being the 2 most exciting, right? 2 most high explosiveness, great burst scores, and they scored well on the Breakout Finder. Deebo because of the dynamic score, Terry McLaurin because of the teammate score. That's why we have the Breakout Finder. That's why this podcast exists, to find guys like Deebo and Scary Terry. Do you like that nickname, the Scary Terry nickname?
That is a very original one, Matt. Man, what about the backfield, man? Is the backfield worth our time here? I mean, is this one that we're avoiding? I think all 3 of us
go through every aspect of every team, and now you.
I want to know about Breida. No one cares about the backfield.
Matt Breida is the man. Matt Breida.
That's it. Yes. Moving on then.
Dominate the touches in that backfield because it was a massive blowout. In close games, you're going to see Matt Breida dominate the opportunity share. He's going to have games this year where he goes over 70% opportunity share. Raheem Mostert has always been a complementary, explosive running back. He's a satellite back that's not a strong pass catcher. So if he gets a wide running lane, he's gone. If you get in the ball in space, he can be electric. But those games are going to be few and far between. It's the Matt Breida show. He's the perfect buy low in all formats after they distributed the touches so broadly in week 2.
Listen, Matt, this is your chance, because I don't want to hear about it on the Sonic Truth podcast, which we're going to be doing again next week. This is it. If you got something to cape up for Jimmy Garoppolo, if you want to say something positive about Jimmy Garoppolo, here's your window, because the wheels are falling off.
Played well. So Jimmy Garoppolo had a bad game against what is actually a vastly improved defense in Tampa Bay. And then he went on the road and he played well against Cincinnati. Remember, Jimmy Garoppolo does not have a strong wide receiver core. He has one of the weakest wide receiver cores in the league. When your top wide receiver is a rookie, then you're not dealing with a full deck of wide receiver talent like a Baker Mayfield is, like an Aaron Rodgers is. Right? You don't have an established veteran alpha like Deshaun Watson does in San Francisco. So for Garoppolo to go out and be efficient and throw the ball downfield, close to 300 yards on only 25 attempts and only 1 interception, no sacks, he officially turned it around. Good for Jimmy Garoppolo. He looked good. You need to give him the benefit of the doubt because he has a large penis.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. But on play alone, he had a good week. I'll give it to you. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm off your ass for 1 week, but I'm going to be paying close attention
Defenses
again next
are
week.
allowed to improve. You know who the most improved cornerback in the entire NFL is right now?
Talk to us. Talk to us.
I'll give you a clue. He's a Buccaneer. And he was one of the worst for multiple seasons.
I'm blanking. Nate, what do you got? Guess. You got to guess on behalf of us.
Cornerbacks? Do you know any cornerbacks in the NFL?
We don't watch the games.
Cornerback?
I mean,
you don't know any cornerbacks on Tampa, do you?
This is clearly a canned take. So who's the cornerback? Just say the fucking cornerback already.
Vernon Hargreaves.
Oh, okay.
No.
Yes, Vernon Hargreaves has good this year. You need to deal with it. He is athletic. 131.3, 86th percentile burst score, fellas. This guy was a top 12 pick in the NFL draft just a few years ago, and he struggled. He's best comparable to Marcus Peters in a good way. He's now playing well. He's finally playing up to his athleticism and draft capital at age 24. You shouldn't be surprised. Cornerback has an elongated development curve like tight end, like quarterback. So it's possible the Tampa Bay Buccaneers secondary is vastly improved. And in that context, Jimmy Garoppolo might be a lot better than we think, especially Nate thinks. Nate thinks he's bad. He's not bad.
He has
he's
what? He has,
not bad.
He has 3 good career games out of 15.
Average. I believe he's above average. I don't think he's top 10, but he's somewhere in that 10 to 20 zone. Garoppolo's going to be in that 10 to 20 zone for a long time.
I'll concession.
But he outplayed Andy Dalton. He's certainly better than Andy Dalton.
I got him somewhere between 18 and 20. Squeeze him right in
better
there.
Than Andy Dalton.
Okay, go on.
Listen, I'm gonna.
Let's see what he looks like with an alpha receiver. Get Jimmy Garoppolo and Odell Beckham. Hell, get him a Tyler Lockett. Get him a quality veteran receiver, and we'll see how he does.
I'm gonna tiptoe around this show sheet, man. I feel like, at this point, after Kelly's words of inspiration to start the show, it's a fucking minefield. So I'm gonna pull out what I think he's gonna want to talk about. Let's jump ahead to Minnesota. Dude, Matt, Dalvin Cook, that was a player that you were on all offseason talking about. People were fading him coming off the injury and stuff like that. Through 2 games, man, he looks like legit league winner status.
That's right. Yeah. What am I missing? I didn't understand why Dalvin Cook was falling to the late second round in season leagues. Should have been a late first rounder, and always happy to get him in the second round. The problem is I'm in so many expert leagues and savvy Roto Underworld Radio patron leagues that I often couldn't get Dalvin Cook even in the second round. It was heartbreaking. But when I did, a little fist bump, pumping that fist, because you knew it was going to be a run-first offense. The offensive line would be improved. Dalvin Cook, a year removed from the ACL surgery, so now fully healthy, has a whole offseason to work out and work on his timing and play in preseason and be all systems go in week 1. And he did. He showed out. And he runs a sub 4.5 40, so when there's a crease, he's gone. It's like with Dalvin Cook, it's like what if Tevin Coleman was elusive? Well, that's Dalvin Cook. In a really good way. Imagine that. That would be a great running back. An elusive Tevin Coleman. Well, that's just Dalvin Cook. Is he a top 5 running back? I think you can make that argument.
Yeah, he's looked really good. Obviously, Gary Kubiak paying immediate dividends, improved offensive line. On the other side of the ball, Nate.
Let's ask a tough question for once.
Okay.
How about that?
I want to know.
In Dynasty?
Okay.
Nick Chubb, Dalvin Cook.
I think we already talked about this one on the Sonic Truth. I think we talked about this. It's Dalvin Cook until Nick Chubb.
Dalvin Cook's melted faces for 2 straight weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Chubb has to show that he's the pass catcher.
There's now confirmation that Dalvin Cook is elite. I was talking to Brandon Funston from ESPN and Yahoo and now at The Athletic, and I asked him, is Dalvin Cook elite? And he said, yes.
What do we do about that 3-cone, though, Matt?
So if Dalvin Cook is supplanting Nick Chubb, that means he's a top 5 dynasty running back. Because we already have him ahead of Joe Mixon, ahead of David Johnson, ahead of Todd Gurley. That's easy. The question is, when does he move ahead of Chubb? When does he move ahead of Kamara? When does he move ahead of Elliott? Those are the questions.
I don't think he moves ahead of the Elliott one. The Elliott one is a curious one because I think Elliott's always going to get more carries throughout the year. So he's always going to have the carries on his side. And it's yet to be seen if the target share on Dalvin Cook's side will exceed what Elliott's got. But with Alvin Kamara, the back-to-back 100-target seasons, his use in that offense, without Drew Brees, that's the question mark now. Right? How is he going to be without Drew Brees? Because Kirk Cousins has been hot dog shit all year long, and Dalvin Cook's been phenomenal. So I'm not sure that Kirk Cousins is hurting Dalvin Cook one way or another, but Drew Brees very much could change the way that Alvin Kamara is producing on the field now that we're seeing Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, whole different environment. That was always the question with these skill guys in New Orleans. Michael Thomas, Sans, Drew Brees, obviously Alvin Kamara now too. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in New Orleans without Brees in our center. Matt, I'm telling you, the vocabulary is
not even English.
Sans is a word. Sans without. Look it up.
That's Spanish. We gotta look that up. I mean, you're going now into other languages. You're so sophisticated, Ryan. You're a Renaissance man.
That's what we do.
I'm in awe.
So we got to come on the show more often, man. You got to come on the show more often.
You should be wearing a beret.
What a low bar. This is...
Hey, a beret is not a low bar.
No, I'm just saying. A guy says... Hey,
Sans.
The bar's low. Okay.
Nate, I want to talk about, real quick before we move on, because I don't want to spend too much time in these games here, because Matt's got places to go, people to see. Aaron Jones. You had to be happy about his performance last week, man. Is this a player that you were interested in? We can talk about a dynasty lens here, but season long, this is a player that you hitched your wagon to. Any Aaron Jones thoughts after his impressive Sunday scampers?
Aaron Jones has been a sell all off season. He's still a sell. I don't know why you wouldn't use this as an opportunity. Sell Aaron Jones. I am just waiting for these opportunities to sell. He only has a 54% snap share thus far. He's been fine, right? 15 fantasy points per game. That's pretty good, right? That's borderline RB1. But if anyone is interested in giving Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb level value back for Aaron Jones, you take it. Aaron Jones is the perfect running back to put on the market because they're still giving Jamal Williams an inordinate number of touches. And Jamal Williams is terrible. Imagine if anyone else were in that backfield. I understand 29 carries for Aaron Jones, but 9 for Jamal Williams. So Jamal Williams is getting a significant number of snaps, and he had 4 targets to Aaron Jones' 6. So I don't love the opportunity distribution. It's certainly tilted to Aaron Jones, and good for him. It's great news. The Packers were leaning on a lead in the second half, so they ran Aaron Jones more than they otherwise would. You loved it. You love to see it, but also it's a selling opportunity. But you need to sell high on Aaron Jones. You need to ask for a lot. I've had Aaron Jones on the block in multiple leagues, and I'm not selling until I get a significant value in return because he's a running back. He's a running back who is the primary option on the Packers. So you need to value that guy highly. You can't let that guy go. It's maddening to me, okay, when someone on Twitter says, I traded player X because the Podfather told me to. I didn't say trade low. I didn't say give the guy away. I say when you trade a guy, get more than market value. Or ask your league mates to overpay. I didn't say take what you can get for this player. Yeah, there's a handful of players like Dante Pettis TD. Just take what you can get. Get the hell out of there. You run and hide. I didn't say run and hide from Chris Carson. I never said run and hide from Aaron Jones. But you put feelers out there and you see what you get back. Because Aaron Jones is at risk of being usurped by the NFL draft. There's a hell of a lot of excellent, elite, high pedigree running backs that are going to come out of college this year. Aaron Jones doesn't have that pedigree. He has not yet broken through even as vigorously as Austin Ekeler. Like Austin Ekeler from a small school, but incredible athleticism without the draft capital, right? So Aaron Jones, Matt Breida, Austin Ekeler, all very similar. Breida and Aaron Jones have yet to break out in a way like Austin Ekeler. Austin Ekeler is breaking out in a way where you can't sell him right now, right? Because he's establishing that even if the team brings Melvin Gordon back for the second half of the season, Melvin Gordon's going to come back, right? He has to, or his contract will toll. You can imagine it being an even split, and then after seeing Austin Ekeler go out and be a top 10 running back in fantasy football, team goes, okay, we're going to commit to Austin Ekeler in the offseason. We're not going to draft a running back. You can absolutely see that. In fact, Austin Ekeler is playing so good, he's producing at such a high level that you can see it, that he has convinced the Chargers front office that they don't need Melvin Gordon at all, and they don't need one of these rookies that's coming out next year. I'm not there yet with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones puts together a couple more 100-yard weeks. I might take him off the block because then I'm convinced, okay, there's no way the Packers don't appreciate this guy from the 6th round Texas El Paso. But he hasn't produced quite enough that I'm convinced that the Packers appreciate him fully. And as long as Jamal Williams is getting 10 to 15 touches, I'm going to continue to have those concerns.
Well, Ryan, to answer the question you asked me 45 minutes ago. No, Matt's right. Matt covered just about everything on that, but he's 100% correct in the fact that season long, I'm down with Aaron Jones. He's producing exactly the way you would have wanted him to where you drafted him currently. He's getting the usage that you would prefer to see. But as a 5th-round pick in this offense with the elite talent that's showing up next year, all it takes is an athletic 3rd-round pick to put the heat on Aaron Jones, and suddenly his job is in jeopardy. And similar with Ekeler, like we're talking about. It would also
be nice if Aaron Jones would play well against a quality run defense. So he had an opportunity to produce in week 1 against the Bears, 13 carries for 39 yards, and then the 1 target for 0 yards. Jamal Williams received more targets in the passing game than Aaron Jones in week 1. So it counts twice. It counts double if a running back goes out and produces against a stout defense. That's like a double bonus in terms of your dynasty stock and your the trust that you instill both in your teammates, the coaches, the front office, and dynasty leaguers.
And that's a tough one for Jones because in that game, that's one where Aaron Jones was taking a lot of sacks and Jones was doing a lot of blocking in that game too. I mean, I realize that we want to see production out of him in that situation, but it's week 1. It's an incredible defense with an incredible pass rush. They're getting behind, the offensive line repeatedly. Aaron Rodgers only throws for 203 yards. I mean, that's a tough game right there. But I'm with you. You want to see it consistently out of him. Ekeler's come out of the gate, been fantastic. So when we're comparing and contrasting the two, obviously Ekeler looks better. But with that being said, if Melvin Gordon gets a contract extension That's going to change everything with Austin
not.
Ekeler.
He's not. He's not. Austin Ekeler has, Melvin Gordon. Excuse me. I have Austin Ekeler. I'm so focused on Ekeler. He's so good, and I love him so much. I just want to say his name. Melvin Gordon. You know Melvin Gordon has an Austin Ekeler voodoo doll. Right? On Sundays, you can see Melvin Gordon sitting at home just stabbing that Austin Ekeler doll with pins, right? Just hoping he's just going to fall down and stop producing over
Fumbled,
and
right?
over
Fumbled at the
and
goal
over
line.
and over and over again.
Listen, man, again, like Nate said, I think we started with Aaron Jones here, and we bridged to Austin Ekeler. That's just how good Matt Kelley is.
What about Ito Smith?
At what he
Nate?
does. I want to talk about Ito Smith now too.
Ito
Nate,
Smith,
tell us about.
Speaking of small school running backs who are outperforming the incumbent on the roster. What about Ito Smith against that same defense, that Vikings defense, where Aaron Jones shredded last week?
Yes.
Devontae Freeman, 8 carries for 19 yards. Meanwhile, Ito Smith, 6 carries for 31 yards. So Ito Smith is the only running back so far in that Atlanta backfield to show any kind of efficiency whatsoever. Are you ready for the Ito Smith era in Atlanta?
I'm not. Ito Smith is not a thing. He never was a thing. I'm going to continue to stay on top of this hill. But you know that means, unless you're going to start touting Brian Hill, and I'm here for it because I love Brian Hill, all-purpose back, shout out to Brian Hill, most underrated back in the league. I agree.
If you're off Ito Smith, that means you must cape up for Devontae Freeman, and no one wants to do that right now because Devontae Freeman looks like dust.
Well, look, and even in that game when you're saying he was 6 for 31 against Minnesota, he had 1 carry for 16. So the other 5 carries weren't going for very much. So I realize what we're looking at here. And
Did you just try to do the math in your head and you failed?
Well, I was trying to go through, was it 13 or something, 15? I don't know. The point is,
the other carries,
15.
they were
It's be 5 for 15.
They weren't very much anyway.
So it's 3 yards per carry. But the point is, he's got a 16-yard long carry, and then the other 5 go for 15 yards. So it's not like he's out there dominating, and it's not like he's getting crazy amounts of opportunity, albeit it was 3/4 of the work that Devonta Freeman got. I'm not a fan of Ito Smith coming out of college. I like Brian Hill. I don't know that Brian Hill's the answer. This is another team that looks like they are going to be one that's going to end up with a running back next year. They need it. They need an infusion of a young, up-and-coming stud running back, and this next class will deliver.
Why doesn't Atlanta trade for Melvin Gordon and solve everyone's problems?
It's a great question. I don't know. Why don't they? They need something. This backfield's bad. It's really bad right now. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, they can go and make a move like that. That's a big-time move.
This is strong analysis. The backfield is bad.
That's
Run
it.
on the scroll. Run on the Breakout Finder scroll. Quoting Nate Liss, the Atlanta backfield is bad. Just hard-hitting analysis.
Look, you brought up Ito Smith doing well because he posted 31 yards against the Minnesota Vikings. I laid out some analysis of why. We talked about Devonta Freeman not being good. 8 carries, 19 yards. It's barely over a yard per carry. I mean, he's not doing great. So I don't know what to tell you. This
I'm
offense,
looking forward
the run
to
game,
discussing every single one of these box scores in detail. Not just last week, but week 1 too.
We've skipped at least 5 already. Ryan, just take us to the next.
We're moving ahead here. Listen, the next game, the next box score, to Matt's point, was the Indianapolis-Tennessee game. We're going to skip it over that unless.
What do you mean? We're going to skip over that?
Matt, you said you had plenty about Deion
Kane was the heir apparent to the Devin Funchess role.
I'm so sorry, Nate.
Indianapolis is the new number 2 receiver, right? Deion Kane. He went to Clemson, man. Deion Kane went to Clemson. It's so exciting to see a Clemson receiver with an 80-plus percentile speed score starting in the NFL, except he didn't start. The guy that led the second on the team in wide receiver snap share was Chester Rogers. So it was neither Deion Kane nor Paris Campbell. And if you are the Colts front office or you're Frank Reich, you're going to be drawing up plays and working with Jacoby Brissett to figure out ways to get Paris Campbell involved, not Deon Cain.
Well, to be fair, Deon Cain was second on the team in offensive snaps. And Paris Campbell had 18. Deon Cain had 33. I think they both only had a single target. I'm not out on Deon Cain. I don't know why.
Wait, he had more than Chester Rogers?
Yeah, he had more. Chester Rogers only had 28. So he had the second most on the whole team. Look, and he did start the game as the number 2.
Well, isn't that an indictment, though? Isn't that an indictment to log such a generous snap share and then only receive one target? Isn't that very Dante Pettis of him?
That's very Dante Pettis of him. As long as we're calling it a Dante Pettis-ism, then yes, it is.
Do you think that guys like Deon Cain, they lack a particular je ne sais quoi for the position, right? Just to channel.
It's a phrase that I would say.
Yeah, to channel Ryan Lopes for a moment. Do you think they just lack that je ne sais quoi? Like they don't have the feel for the position. Like they're always a step late where they should be, even though they have the explosiveness and they went to a top school like Division I program, elite Division I program. That there's a reason why they fall to the 6th round, because they're just not where they need to be on the football field, and that makes them impossible to trust. And that's why you see such a low target share.
I mean, isn't Deon Cain coming off an ACL tear too? I mean, there's some things here. They lose Andrew Luck, so now they've got Jacoby Brissett.
Hey, let's hear from Ryan. Ryan, do you like Deon Cain, or do you think he's a complete fraud?
So Nate, in confidence pre-show, we were texting and then we were talking a little bit. He said, Matt's gonna bring up Deon Cain. We texted first. Then we hopped on and kind of got each other psyched up here.
Different levels.
Because Nate said Ryan.
Electronic communication and then verbal communication.
Both got all our bases covered, and he said Ryan, Matt's gonna come on. He's got a bone to pick about Deon Cain. I said Nate, I hear you, buddy. So Nate asked me, Ryan, what is your stance? And all I said was, I am still recovering from the Dante Moncrief Indianapolis Colt experience. I'm scarred from that. I was high on Deon Cain for a lot of the reasons you just made fun of. Matt coming out of school, the Clemson profile in general. But to your point, he is where he is now. He is obviously missing something or some things in his game that have led him to kind of just stumble around the Colts depth chart. To Nate's point, injury does play some part of that, but getting passed up
he's like a late round Dante Moncrief.
Right, fair enough. And again, and that's obviously a very bad thing given what's going on with Dante Moncrief right now. So, I think
Moncrief commanded one target for 0 yards.
He's booty. Last week. He is not good. And it's James Washington time, boys, in Pittsburgh. We'll get to that in a little bit.
It's absolutely James Washington time. You want to know why?
Oh, let's get to it right now. Let's talk about it right now.
There's no quarterback wide receiver duo with more built-in rapport than Mason Rudolph and James Washington.
Oh, yeah.
Do you realize what these two were able to accomplish at Oklahoma State? It was magical. The music they made at Oklahoma State was just it was angelic. This is
divine.
An angelic duo. I feel like these two they play harps. Okay, 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for James Washington, punctuated by 74 catches for 1,500 plus yards, over 20 yards per reception. He had 2 seasons with over 20 yards per reception. Why? Because, well, I'll tell you, Mason Rudolph loves to push the ball downfield. And during those 3 seasons that I mentioned, James Washington also 33 touchdowns.
Decent.
So
decent, for sure.
It's James Washington time. It's time to move Dante Moncrief off to the side. He had his chance. He didn't fire. And now you have the go-to receiver for 3 years is now paired back with the same guy at the professional level. I mean, this is just I love this storyline. I love this. The college buddies where I hope they were roommates. That would be so fun if they were roommates. They're roommates, and then maybe they Maybe they're working out together.
Ooh,
They're
okay.
high-fiving.
Right.
They're jogging.
Maybe a hug or two. I don't know.
Yeah, they're hugging
Right. Okay.
after they finish working out.
Walking to and from class.
They jog together.
Right.
But then, and then they're, maybe they're pranking each other, like hitting each other in the back of the legs from behind, like in the line at the cafeteria.
It's cute. That's fun.
It's so, fun. Oh, God. It makes me smile thinking about James Washington and Mason Rudolph frolicking.
This is next on the list here, Matt, but I'm going to try to segue to it in a very professional, non-boring, non-redundant manner here. So bear with me here. Does what Sony Michel is doing through 2 games in New England? We're going to talk about New England next here, Matt. Sony Michel not getting it done through the air. Some say the game script. Obviously, these have been blowouts. Are we concerned about Sony Michel?
Is Sony Michel active in the passing game season? No one fell for that. No matter how much they talked about it during preseason and training camp. Oh, they're using Sony Michel more in the passing game. No one fell for that. Like, not a single fantasy analyst that I'm aware of fell for that horse shit that's peddled by the local beat reporters. Here's why Sony Michel is a buy right now in all formats. He shredded Miami in a game he needed to shred Miami because it was a Sony Michel game. Then he gets New York, Buffalo, Washington, New York Giants, and then New York Jets. So he's got 3 New York teams in the next 6 weeks. And he's got Buffalo and Washington in there as well. So until Baltimore in week 9, it's friendly matchup after friendly matchup for Sony Michel. Now, in the second half of the season, there's some challenging games. That's where you're going to see more negative game script. You're going to see more Brady weeks, see more James White in the second half against Philadelphia and Dallas, Houston, Kansas City. But then they close it out, Cincinnati, Buffalo, Miami. So in the fantasy playoffs, it's going to be Sony Michel. For the next 6 weeks, it's going to be Sony Michel. So Sony Michel is going to help you make the playoffs, and then he's going to help you win the fantasy Super Bowl in weeks 15 and 16. So go get Sony Michel.
Nate, do you have – this is like choose your own adventure, bro. You can talk about anything New England. I don't think you want to talk about Miami. Do you want to talk about Sony? Do you want to go back to Deion Kane? Like, I just want to hear from you, man.
I would love to fight more about Deion Kane, but no, I think we need to put that one to rest.
Okay,
the
fair enough.
Sony Michel not being targeted thing.
Here's the thing. Deion Kane didn't even finish
Here we go.
well in the Breakout Finder.
That's my fault again.
Deion Kane wasn't even top 10 in his class on the Breakout Finder. So there's no reason to like him other than I saw him play in a college football game once and he looked good. That's all Nate has to go on.
In a Clemson uniform.
I'm with you. Remember, Matt, I got to commit to this thing.
Was Deion Kane active in special teams at Clemson?
No.
Was he a special teams ace? Any kind of dynamism to his game?
No.
Then why the fuck do you give a shit about what I think about Deion Kane, Nate?
I don't care about what you think about Deion Kane. I don't care at all. I've been saying this. Ryan's the one that jammed this in here. What I have been saying is
that's my fault. That's my fault.
Well, I mean, since when is being the number 2
Deion
receiver?
Kane, and you can't let it go.
I like Deion
and
Kane.
And you challenged on it, you slink away. You shrink from the moment, dude.
Because what are you supposed to do? I agree. I mean, when you look at the raw numbers, they're not great. We don't disagree on that. Like, I can't combat that.
I'm trying to help you to understand the flaw in your reasoning. I'm trying to make you better.
On. It's not working.
Clearly, the self-awareness, the bad take self-awareness, Nate Liss, is non-existent.
I'm not. We talked about this on the song because it's like a rehash of what we talked about on the song.
A reoccurring nightmare.
I'm having Groundhog's Day, Ryan. What? Move along, Antonio Brown.
We're gonna move it.
Nothing. I've never seen an analyst have less than Nate Liss responding to Deion Kane criticism. Question for you two: what's the fascination with Devin Singletary in Dynasty right now?
Here we go.
Dude, Devin Singletary was we talked about Devin Singletary almost as much as we talked about David Montgomery. I don't think either of us were Devin Singletary truthers. I know I came out and said, the college tape, Matt, I know you're not sitting here grinding tape and
I would
and all
never
that.
grind
You
tape.
would never grind tape. Too many brunches to eat. Right. Right. But the Devin Singletary tape, for those that watched it, was fun. I enjoyed it. But then we got to his pro day. We got to the combine. The athletic numbers weren't
Who
there.
else had a fun tape? D'Angelo Henderson.
Ooh.
D'Angelo Henderson's Coastal Carolina tape was really fun to watch. And do you know what D'Angelo Henderson has done at the NFL level?
Here we go.
Tell us about it.
Nothing.
I thought you were going to bring out the air horn or something for that one.
He's not particularly athletic, but what he did do is run hard at Coastal Carolina. He was 5'7", 208. Does that ring a bell at all? Do you know anyone else that's 5'7", 208?
Is that Devin Singletary-ish?
But here's the difference. See, D'Angelo Henderson, he ran a 4.48. So at least he had straight line speed. Not extreme athleticism, the 106.7 SparkX score, 35th percentile. So not an impressive athlete, but at least he had some straight line speed. Go with the tough, hard running in Coastal Carolina's conference of the stout defenses faced by Coastal Carolina. On the other hand, Devin Singletary runs a 4.66. And he's even lighter. He's 5'7", 203. So even lighter than D'Angelo Henderson. D'Angelo Henderson was viewed as a bowling ball running back at Coastal Carolina, which is what you hear about Devin Singletary. Except he just doesn't have the draft capital. Devin Singletary is going to get touches because he was a third-round pick. D'Angelo Henderson would have got similar touches if he were a third-round pick, but he would have done more with them, even though it's hard to do more than what Devin Singletary has done thus far. I mean, think about it. 10.3 yards per touch, 11.8 true yards per carry. Doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, I think to answer your questions from a dynasty standpoint, I think you just like the path that's kind of in front of him, man. Frank Gore, we say he's not going to play forever. He might, but
we say this about running backs behind Frank Gore. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
Just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time.
And
How long have you been
He's still here,
about,
right?
Remember, I got a player for you. Remember Jay Ajayi? Jay Ajayi? Remember that? Remember Jay
Vaguely.
Remember he
remember him.
was just a Frank Gore stumble away from taking over that backfield, and that never happened. And he got traded.
Never quite worked out. Yeah,
it didn't happen. So
do you have a strong?
I'm not sold on Devin Singletary. However, I have an interesting take on Devin Singletary. We don't need what Nate has to say about Devin Singletary. My take on Devin Singletary is this: you don't trade him quite yet. You wait. You let him continue to flash with these nice matchups coming up, and then you trade him. But you wait. You wait patiently. We wait.
I'm waiting patiently.
Nate, you've waited very patiently, man. I want you on the mic, man.
Are you done? For Christ's sakes.
But you better trade Devin Singletary by the time the season is over, because Buffalo is absolutely a candidate to draft a proper workhorse back in the draft.
A lot of good ones, as you alluded to, for sure. Nate,
I'll tell you what Devin Singletary actually feels like. First off, can we talk about Ito Smith's Southern Miss tape while we're talking about tape that doesn't matter?
Let's do it.
Let me tell you this about Devin Singletary.
Smith was strong to pass.
You walked into
Miss,
nothing about Ito Smith.
It delivered above average athleticism at his pro day.
No.
Devin Singletary's best comparable to Kadeem Carey.
Kadeem Carey was a slammer. He was a battler. Listen, here's what I want to say about Devin Singletary. For Christ's sakes, Matt.
Of Devin Singletary.
Hold on for a sec here.
How well Devin Singletary battles.
He battles well. I don't know what to say. The point is, though, I agree that there's a chance that Buffalo addresses this running back position next year. But if Devin Singletary continues to play as well as he does in the capacity that he's been allowed to play, he's going to eat away at the next guy's opportunity. You can bet on it, because if a guy that's playing this well continues to play this well, and they use him in this sparse, limited role, 6-10 touches a game, he's going to eat away at the opportunity of the next guy. You watch. He's not going anywhere. He's been playing too well.
Can you imagine making a dynasty assessment, a value judgment based on 10 touches? Based on 10 touches of efficiency, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, talk about bad process. There is no worse process in all of football analysis than believing a player is what he is based on 10 touches. Taking a couple long runs and using that as your assessment of a player. The reason why Devin Singletary has one of the top yards per carries in the sport at the moment is randomness. Pure random chance.
What if it's
and
not
you
random?
Sell exceptional efficiency when it is delivered by those that cannot sustain it. You can't sustain it because of the team situation he's in, and he can't sustain it because he doesn't have the requisite athleticism or skill set demonstrated at the college level. Devin Singletary checks almost no boxes, but he's playing well, and he gets Cincinnati this week. So you're not in a hurry to trade him. Just make sure that you set your watch, set your alarm, and just make sure you've traded him by the time the trade deadline hits this season.
This guy's crazy right here. I'm just telling you. I like how 10 touches doesn't validate that he's good, but 10 touches validates that he's not good. Right? I mean, it's not a sample size.
Zoom out. When you zoom out on a guy like Devin Singletary, he's going to show you more than efficiency in 2 games at the running back position, which we know is very interdependent on your supporting cast, in order to disprove our well-architected assumption that Devin Singletary is a below-average back in the league.
So if he keeps playing well, then he's just a ticking time bomb. So he could play well for 10 straight games, but he is a ticking time bomb. That's what I'm getting. He could have 100-yard games for the next 8 games, but you would say
to overcome the lack of competition at the college level, to overcome a anemic athletic profile, to overcome a lack of involvement in the passing game at every level of football. Yes, the bar is high for Devin Singletary. But the problem is, if you knew that already, you don't have him on your roster, so he's not a sell. But if you found a way to get him through trade, maybe he was a throw-in of some kind, just don't trade him quite yet. The problem is those that have him are a bunch of film worshipers, and they're going to ride him right into the ground. Mm-hmm. They're going to take Devin Singletary right to 0.
With that being said, sell
boys, I didn't know we can speak this much about Devin Singletary, but that's why Matt is so good at what he does. I want to talk about some other running backs, if I may, boys. Chris Carson, 3 fumbles last week. Is it Rashad Penny time? Matt, do we care about Rashad Penny? Are we out on Rashad Penny? Are we out on Chris Carson? It's still the
Chris Carson backfield. And I told my entire audience on Twitter, every social platform,
let the world know,
YouTube, on my podcast, trade high, sell high, get out on Chris Carson. The time to trade him was not when he was rehabbing his knee injury. That wasn't the time to trade Chris Carson. The time to trade him was after week 1. So if you held on, then you're stuck. Because now it looks like a 50-50 opportunity share. Now it looks like a shared backfield. Those offers for Chris Carson have evaporated. Now you've got to hold on and hope that he bounces back, that they go back, they look at the tape, they realize, oh, that was Russell Wilson's fault. He tried to hand it to Chris Carson in his shoulder pad. Okay, Chris Carson's back. He dominates the backfield touches in week 3. Then you can trade him. You can't trade a guy like Chris Carson coming off that week 2 performance. I'm also not buying Rashad Penny. The rushing leader for the Seattle Seahawks in 2020 is not on the roster.
To take and a half.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, I think there was a lot of Chris Carson buzz, to Matt's point, showed out strong the first game of the season. There was also a early investment in Rashad Penny. Again, maybe as Matt was alluding to, isn't the player that you want to invest in going forward. You're not buying him.
Did you see the long run by Rashad Penny in week 2?
He looked like the better back.
Run. He ran into the back of his offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. He ran straight into the pile, bounced straight back, started running forward again with very little burst, but no one was there. He just ran straight ahead into a void, a defender void, and he just kept running and right into the end zone. Mm-hmm. So I was not impressed. Mm-hmm. I didn't think he looked shifty or explosive or anything. No. I just think it was just like what we talked about with Devin Singletary. It was random chance. You can't put one game where Rashad Penny was significantly more efficient, but which is derived from one single carry, one long touchdown, as that can't be your assessment of these two players. Chris Carson's still a better back, and I'd rather have Chris Carson in Dynasty.
I think if we're talking redraft season long, the pendulum might keep swinging. It might be in Penny's favor now, or kind of shifting that way. I'm telling you
it's not, and okay. Nate agrees with me.
Well, I want to get Nate. I want Nate to put the Seattle sunglasses on and tell us all about it. My only thought going forward, and then I'll let you guys have at it, is how bad of a process is it for a team like Seattle to your point, Matt, totally agree. Carson might be the pure better runner. There was an early investment. I guess maybe it's a better move as a franchise to cut bait and walk away from a bad draft pick. But investing early on a running back just to double down again in 2020, perhaps in the draft, or maybe idiotic, right?
Pick was a demonstration of blatant incompetence, a complete lack of understanding of positional value, mm-hmm. and the opportunity cost was high. Drafting a Rashad Penny, drafting a Sony Michel at the end of the first round was catastrophic for both teams because Harold Landry, one of the best pass rushers in the league, was available. He posted incredible workout metrics. He had the size, the speed. He was basically everything you're looking for in an edge rusher available at the end of the first round. And to pass on that guy for a running back is just an egregious blunder by both Seattle and New England. I mean, he's the next Myles Garrett. And instead of using the 101 on him, you could have used the 201. Idiots.
Nate, tell us about the backfield, man, and then we're gonna move on.
Well, I mean, Matt's not wrong. I think that Chris Carson is definitely the back to own here. And the other point is that Rashad Penny's really not going anywhere either because Pete Carroll has proven and he's stated he doesn't give up on players. They drafted C.J. Prosise 4 years ago. The guy's played in like 40% of the games he could have played in, and he's still on this roster. He's still playing. I don't think Rashad Penny's going anywhere, but to that point, Chris Carson is still the guy here. But again, the other thing too is, it's easy in hindsight to look back on who could have been drafted in these spots and say,
no, it isn't. Isn't it not in hindsight? At the time, the moment the picks were announced, I said this was a mistake. They should have drafted Harold Landry.
Nobody thought that Rashad Penny should have gone in the first round. I mean, with the Kareem Hunts, with the Alvin Kamaras, these guys going in the third round that have been successful players, it's been proven in the NFL that you don't have to take a running back in the first round to have a guy that can be a feature back in your offense. And taking Rashad Penny early was a mistake. We all agree it. The Seattle fan base all agreed that they hated this pick. New England, a lot of people hated the Sony Michel pick, but look, they still win the Super Bowl. They've got a great team, great organization. They worked around it. They could have been better off not taking him there. They take Damian Harris this year in the third round as a backup. That was
another
a value
mistake.
Pick. But that was a value pick at least in the third. I mean, you can't hate the pick.
Running backs in the third are not value. Running backs in the fifth and sixth round. Aaron Jones is a value.
It would only make them a value if all running backs get pushed. At some point,
they all should get pushed.
But look, Aaron Jones is going to get replaced.
Saquon Barkley in the third would be a value, yes.
So if your plan is to rent a running
back, but not
back,
Damian Harris. Come on now.
I'm just saying, if your plan is to rent a running back every year with the fifth round pick, then do it. I guess that makes sense if you can achieve it. But
Chris Carson was a seventh round pick. That was perfect. That's a great value bet.
Right, obviously.
That's the definition of a value play. Seventh rounder, boom.
Right, but that doesn't happen. How many Chris Carsons are in the NFL that have stuck around for 2 straight years? Isaiah Crowell.
Talking about 7 of them.
No, we didn't. Here's the
point.
point.
Matt Breida, Austin Ekeler.
Well, okay, they've had a couple good games each.
The list is long, Nate.
But they haven't been sustained starters. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, they've all played spot roles over a couple years. Talk to me when they're Isaiah Crowell and they've played 5 years in the league. How many of those guys are there?
When they're Isaiah Crowell.
No, I'm just saying, look where Isaiah Crowell came from. He's a perfect example. An undrafted free agent, plays far beyond the expectation of the amount of time.
Pretty much every team in the NFL has one of these guys. Ty Montgomery. in Detroit. Value
doing
bet. Incredible upside, late
Name the
draft,
next one.
day 3. Every team. Pick a team. Oh, the Tennessee. We were talking about the Tennessee Titans. Dion Lewis.
But they're not doing anything. These
Dion
guys
Lewis,
aren't.
value bet.
But they're not starters. They're not. You're saying take guys in the 5th round. Where are
Even
these guys?
Mike Davis is a quality running back, and he's available in free agency to be acquired for very little. Mike Boone in Minnesota. I can go team by team, and I can give you a value.
Let him have
play.
Mike Boone, Nate. Let him have Mike Boone, Nate.
Some of them are starting right now, like Ekeler and Breida.
Every team that you have named has a high drafted player in front of every player you named. You named guys that were added in depth, later round picks.
Dallas, Tony Pollard.
What about Tony Pollard? He might never sniff the field again. Zeke signed a huge
Arizona,
contract.
Chase Edmonds.
He might never see the field.
Day three. Quality running back after quality running back available in day 3. If you're drafting a running back in day 1 or 2, you're doing it wrong.
I disagree, but let's move on, Ryan.
Let's
disagree.
I do. I disagree because there is a you're right. If you can get a hit in the 5th round, that's obviously better than taking a guy in the 1st. But
do you know how round Justice Hill was drafted in?
4th. He hasn't done anything yet.
Day 3.
He hasn't done anything yet.
That was an exceptional pick.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Day 3.
Didn't we just talk about a player only having 10 touches and that not defining his career? How many touches does Justice Hill have?
Well, I zoom out.
Now he's going. Yeah, you must. You're looking
Justice
out your own window of the airplane.
Profile.
Why don't you come look out my window? Why don't you unbuckle your seatbelt and get out of your seat?
This is like Justice Hill versus Devin Singletary is the perfect dichotomy to have players of similar size. One has both the prolific production and the exquisite athletic profile that you can see him being an RB1 in fantasy, just the moment he's given opportunity, he can be unlocked. Devin Singletary, the bridge is way too far to build that out. We don't disagree, Devin Singletary is going to be an RB1 someday. I can't see it. It's a bridge too far.
We don't disagree on the value of Hill or the skill set or who we like better. I like Hill better too.
Every team has a great value at running back.
They have a backup at running back, yes.
Rex Burkhead in New England.
Ryan,
I can name one. Every team has one.
But none of these are starters. You're not naming any starters.
Todd Smith would be in New York.
Matt.
Ty Montgomery with the Jets.
Okay, every instance where the
Jalen Samuels in Pittsburgh.
How about when Jerick McKinnon was in Minnesota?
Oh, you did. You said that one.
Yeah,
that was the one. That was the one.
Can we move on, please? We've gone through this so many times. So many times, it doesn't matter.
I'm okay to move. Matt, do you want to move on, or do you want to talk about Tony Pollard?
I don't want to talk about Tony Pollard.
I've already
listen. Okay, let's move on, boys. These are always my favorite episodes. I want to just quick sidebar. I always come in and like, man, we're gonna try to like keep this thing going and kind of mediate it better, but it's impossible to mediate the Sonic truth.
Was a day 3 pick.
Yes, and Marlon Mack's been great, but Matt, you know that Marlon Mack would be an outlier historically.
I just named a number of running backs that fit this profile. I don't know how many teams I have to go through.
But you only named what you've named so far, one running back that fits what I'm talking about, which is a starter for multiple seasons.
Austin Ekeler.
Yeah, not yet. So, okay. I mean,
he started games last year and he started games this year, and all he's ever done is be one of the most efficient running backs in the league. Okay. Same with Matt Breida.
What about Thomas Rawls? I mean, when Thomas Rawls was playing.
I never thought Thomas Rawls was good. Thomas Rawls does not fit the definition of a value back because he wasn't athletic and he wasn't overly productive at Central Michigan. You can throw whatever garbage running back, whatever fringe player you want at me, and I will have a take sent right back in your face, Nate Liss. I know where these guys went to college. I know what their athletic profiles look like. I know how dominant they were at the college level and the NFL level. You're not ever going to get one of these guys by me.
And Matt, most of these guys haven't been dominant at the NFL level for a sustained period of time. That's my argument. I'm not trying to put one past you.
Has been a dominant running back in the NFL.
Time out.
Actually, I'm not even going to go Ito Smith. I don't have to go Ito Smith, even though Ito Smith is one of the best running backs in the league. He has been for many years. Brian Hill. Brian Hill is that value back on Atlanta.
I'm with you. That's fine. Brian Hill is going to have his moment if this
There
team
is
continues
a
to
team
play.
that doesn't have one, by the way, on the roster.
New York Jets.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
You like
Bucks.
Montgomery, so
Yeah, Barber's bad. Wait,
Well,
what
it's just
dude,
that-
you love Dare. What's his last name?
Dare.
Ugumbawale?
Agumbawale. I always
Agumbawale was never a workhorse at the college level. He was the satellite back to Corey Clement's workhorse back at Wisconsin. And that just doesn't fit the bill. Even in Miami, by the way, Myles Gaskin. Stash Myles Gaskin in Dynasty.
How
Yeah,
come?
Myles Gaskin will have his moment. Kenyon Drake is on the trade block. And then Kenyon Drake gets traded. Suddenly Gaskin is the number 2 behind Kalen Ballage, who is terrible.
Oh man, I got to be honest with you. I'm amazed by some of the people that you're getting behind. These don't seem like the players that Matt Kelley would support. Some of them are hyper athletes. Some of them had good college resumes. Some of them didn't. This is another 5'9", 205-pound player who has
with average athleticism across the
okay
board.
burst.
And he was a dominant runner at Washington.
Hold
He
on.
was good, not great. Myles Gaskin was good, not great. But as a starting running back, good, not great can be productive.
He was a touch faster than Devin Singletary
Would-
also, Ryan.
would one think with the abundance of Miami draft picks and just the overall dysfunction in that front office, wouldn't Miami be a prime landing spot for one of these primo
Absolutely.
2020 running backs, right?
Stash Myles Gaskin now. So you're right. You stash Myles Gaskin in Dynasty. You let him break out in December, and you trade him before the draft.
Okay, so that's the
good advice.
methodology. That's the mind of Mansion right there. Listen, boys, I want to talk about quarterbacks.
You just went inside the mind of Mansion, and you'll
We're
never be
there.
the same.
We're there together. I want to talk about quarterbacks for a little bit as we try to wrap
Bloody
up
Marys.
as we try to wrap up the show, which is, as Nate said, is spiral.
I'm pointing at you.
Listen,
I
man.
have a question. I have a
Oh,
question.
no.
For Nate Liss.
Yeah.
Here we go. Let
How
him
does
have it.
Demarcus Robinson perform on the Breakout Finder?
How does Demarcus Robinson? I'm gonna have to search his name. You guys want to fill for time while I open him up in the Breakout Finder?
We gotta cue some music here. While Nate's looking at numbers, Matt, do you want to preface this with a Demarcus Robinson take? Are you a Demarcus Robinson supporter?
He is the number 1 waiver claim in fantasy football. He is the
This is the
player
one.
that all the fantasy gamers are looking at the top of their waiver wire pool. They want to hear about this Demarcus Robinson wide receiver who broke out all over the place last week, melted faces. One of the best weeks for a wide receiver we've seen all season. And the assumption is he must be good. How can he not be good? How can a wide receiver who's not that great post 172 yards and 2 touchdowns? Well, the answer is Patrick Mahomes. The answer is the Chiefs' offense at Oakland. That's the answer. The answer isn't, because Demarcus Robinson is an elite talent that you must have in Dynasty.
You have to get worried about just the number of targets there. Mecole Hardman looked good. Again, context matters. Oakland doesn't field a legitimate NFL defense, but Hardman looked good. We got Hill coming back. We know what Sammy Watkins did week 1. Sammy Watkins is always the threat as long as he's on the field and active. There's just a lot. I mean, Robinson had his week, but I guess the question is how many of those weeks can you reasonably expect out of someone like Demarcus
90%
Robinson?
snap share, 40 routes run. So the 6 targets were the bare minimum you're going to get with 40 routes in that Chiefs offense. Well, unless you're Chris Conley. Chris Conley found a way. Chris Conley found a way to run 40-plus routes and get 2 to 3 targets. And I'm not sure how he solved that riddle, but he did it. But the previous week, Demarcus Robinson ran 21 routes and received 2 targets, 1 reception for 0 yards. So on just half the number of targets, he produced exactly squat. So I need to see a bit more from the 6'1", 203-pound wide receiver who runs a 4.59, best comparable to Brian Hartline. He looks the part of a prototypical slot receiver in the NFL, not a downfield field stretcher, not a big play wide receiver that's going to fill Tyreek Hill's shoes. He's not going to play the Tyreek Hill role. He can get downfield and make big plays on double moves out of the slot. Like D.D. Westbrook last season did that frequently. So you're going to see a couple D.D. Westbrook games from Demarcus Robinson. Great. That's great. But longer term and for the rest of the season, I think that McColl is going to outproduce who can play Tyreek Hill role, not one for one, but deliver that route tree. Demarcus Robinson's not that guy.
Now, I imagine Nate's got the numbers pulled up in front of him here. Real quick, Matt, before we kick it
We're
over
so
to our guy,
filibustering
Nate.
and providing Nate with more than enough time.
Plenty of time. Matt, I want to know.
Breakout Finder, breakout score.
I want to know before we get that, man. I want to know, you mentioned waiver wires. How would you prioritize for the people a Nelson Aguilar, Deebo Samuel, DJ Chark, and Demarcus Robinson? Would you
DJ Chark? Everyone was eager to pick up DJ Chark after
week 1.
He went over 100 yards with a touchdown last week. So I don't think DJ Chark's available in many leagues.
Okay.
But Deebo Samuel, he's actually not available in any leagues that the listeners of my program are in.
You were pushing
they
him.
knew to go get Deebo Samuel for 2% of their budget because he went out and ran a bunch of routes, operated as the alpha, just didn't happen to catch a lot of passes in what was a weird game. So you all should have Deebo Samuel by now. If you don't, he needs to be your priority wide receiver ad this week, not Demarcus Robinson, not Nelson Aguilar. But I understand why you would want to go get Nelson Aguilar because wins are critical. It's a very short season in fantasy football. We have 12, 13, at most 14 weeks of the regular season. So every week is critical. And the opportunity to play a wide receiver that's in line for 10-plus targets in week 3, even against a stout defense. They're tough against the pass. So you have a difficult pass defense, but also a team that loves to grind clock, offense. So low-pace game against an above-average offense. Matchup necessarily, but the situation is better than you're going to find. You could go all season and not find a wide receiver in a better situation for the upcoming week than Nelson Aguilar this week. So I understand why you might want to go push your chips in the middle of the table and fire up Nelson Aguilar this week, but I prefer Deebo Samuel. But those would be my 2 priorities.
Nate, we know what the Breakout Finder thinks of Deebo Samuel. What does the Breakout Finder think? Going back to Matt's original question.
Now filibuster 17 hours. We've got multiple
give it to
topics
us, man.
Been fully explained and discussed. Did we give you enough time to find Demarcus Robinson's breakout score?
What's hilarious is my computer is working overtime to process all this wind. But Demarcus Robinson, outside the top 25 in his class, with just better than 14% breakout percentage. So, not rated super highly amongst his group, but that's kind of what you would expect looking back on his career thus far.
Are we
not that good?
Yeah, not that good, which again goes back to Matt's list of priorities here on the waiver wire. Makes complete sense. Context matters.
Man, he sure did make Gary and Conley look stupid.
Yeah, it was a really tough watch. Patrick Mahomes,
Gary and Conley a bust?
Conley's weird. Missed again. You mentioned earlier the show. Cornerback transitions are up there with quarterback, up there with tight end. Conley missed a chunk of his rookie season, which I imagine set him back a good bit. Obviously, we're seeing his play in the field right now.
Fantastic.
It's not trending in the right. Yeah, it's not.
Ohio State. Excellent workout metrics,
Athletic.
best comparable to Aqib Talib. I like Gary and Conley, but if you're going to get abused by Demarcus Robinson to the tune of 170 plus yards,
no bueno.
Child, please.
No bueno. Listen, I want to talk about quarterback, boys, so we can wrap this
Gary
thing up.
and
Matt,
Conley's embarrassed in the film room this
You're
week.
getting it now, Ryan.
hey, listen,
Gary
these are things we know.
Right now in the film room.
These are things we know, man. It has not been. What was that, Matt? Say again.
Can this show be over, guys? Can we Get
this
over.
could be,
Can we be done?
This could be over. If you want
When
it to
we
be over,
start talking
we can
about
be over.
Raiders cornerbacks, it should be
Done?
over.
Maybe the end.
This could be the end. This could be the end. We
Ryan.
don't have to talk about quarterbacks.
No, Ryan, no. Yeah, make him sit through another one, Ryan. Go one more.
Listen, I just wanted to bring up the Lamar Jackson fathead behind him, and I just wanted to talk quarterbacks. I wanted to talk week 1 through 2 quarterback. Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson. I wanted the Podfather. If the Podfather doesn't want to give his takes on some of these impressive quarterbacks, we don't have to have the Podfather's takes. I was going to offer it up.
Most
to those.
impressive quarterback performances that no one is talking about.
Here we go.
Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, we talked about that Detroit is a difficult defense. I mean, Detroit held the Chargers to 10 points. Okay, think about what Detroit did to the Chargers. Phillip Rivers, 21 for 36 for 293 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. So they neutered Phillip Rivers, but guess what? They couldn't neuter Kyler Murray. The Lions couldn't stop Kyler Murray. The Ravens couldn't stop Kyler Murray. No one can prevent Kyler Murray from going over 300 yards and producing fantasy points. And he's delivered the bare minimum thus far. I mean, he's gone over 300 yards 2 weeks, and he only has 3 passing touchdowns total and less than 20 rushing yards. He's going to run more. He's going to throw for more touchdowns in the weeks ahead. I am incredibly encouraged from what I've seen from Kyler Murray for the first 2 weeks because of not what he did, but who he did it against.